Good morning, friends. So, we continue our lesson today and with the topic of refraction. So, a revision on what is refraction. I hope you do remember what refraction is. Yes? What we did yesterday? When an oblique ray of light, moves from one transparent medium to another. When an oblique ray of light moves from one transparent medium to another, it bends at the surface separating the two media. Yes? So I have got water, air and water. This is just an example. But what is a refraction? When an oblique ray of light goes from one transparent medium to another, it bends at the surface separating the two media. This phenomenon is called refraction. So what we have done, at these points of incidence, we draw a normal. What is a normal? A normal is a line perpendicular to the surface, yes, at 90 degrees. Then we have the angle of incidence. What is the angle of incidence? The angle between the incident ray and the normal is the angle of incidence, and the angle between the refracted ray and the normal is the angle of refraction. So what are laws of refraction? The incident ray, the normal and the refracted ray. Incident ray, normal and refracted ray lie in the same plane. And yesterday we did one more thing. Refractive index mu is sine I upon sine R. So what does it say? What does the refractive index mean? The bending of light. How much the light will bend? How much the light will bend is fixed upon medium 1 and medium 2. So refractive index is also called what? Velocity of light in medium 1 upon velocity of light in medium 2. Okay? So light was coming from air and entering water. So what you can observe over here? Medium 1 is air, medium 2 is water. So light was coming in air and actually bending in the water. So refractive index of water with respect to light. So we write this as refractive index of water, we are finding of water with respect to light. Sometimes it is written as refractive index of water with respect to light, or sometimes it is written as refractive index of water with respect to light. There are three ways you can write it. In all these three cases, what we have found out? We have found out the refractive index of water. Why? Because light is bending at the surface of air and water, so light is bending in the water. The light has changed the direction in the water. Can you see? In air the light was coming in this direction. In water the light has changed the direction. So the change in direction, the bending is in water. So refractive index of water. So we are finding refractive index of water, but with respect to what? With respect to air. Now, say the light was coming from water to glass. And in this case, we have refractive index of glass with respect to water. Why? Light was traveling in water, then it enters the glass. So it has changed the direction in the glass. So the bending has happened for the glass. So here refractive index is found of glass. You are finding the refractive index of medium 2 of glass with respect to water. So in which medium the light was coming first and then which medium it went to. So you find the refractive. This is the notation how it is written. So refractive index is velocity of light in medium 1 upon velocity of light in medium 2. So here we have to write it is the velocity of light in water upon velocity of light in glass. So this bending, why is the bending taking place? Because the velocity is changing. So the ratio of the velocity in medium 1 upon the velocity of light in medium 2 gives us the refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1. So this is the basic concept of refraction. So refractive index can be found out in two ways. Which two ways? If you know the velocity of light in medium 1 and velocity of light in medium 2, but we do not have thus such instruments to find velocity. But what we have, we can always find the angle I and angle R. So sine of I upon sine of R will give us the refractive index. So here again we have water and we have glass. So refractive index of glass with respect to water equal to sine I, that is the angle of incidence between the angle of incidence between the normal and the incident ray. So sine of R, you know mathematics, trigonometry. So take sine of I, write down the value, sine of R, the angle of refraction. So measure this angle, write down the value, divide the two and you will get it. Now what you will see here, like I told you yesterday, one more thing to remember, when light travels from rarer medium to denser medium, it bends towards the normal. See, the light was going like this, but when it went from rarer to denser, it bends towards the normal, it came towards the normal. Okay, if it goes from rarer to denser, it bends towards the normal, from denser to rarer, away from the normal. Okay, so refractive index is sine upon sine R. Now when the two media are fixed, the refractive index is also fixed, will remain the same. So this is the concept of refraction. Okay. Now say light is going from glass to water. So if it is going from glass and entering water, then it will bend away from the normal. You can see it is bending away from the normal. Here this is the angle of incidence and this is the angle of refraction. Can you see that? Here things have changed. Now light is going from glass denser to water rarer. So it is bending away from the normal. Light was going like this, now it is bending away from the normal. So these things you have to remember, the incident ray, the normal and the refracted ray lie in the same plane. Second law, sine of angle of incidence upon sine of angle of reflection is always a constant. And third, when light goes from rarer to denser, bends towards the normal. From denser to rarer, bends away from the normal. Okay? So this is the idea of refraction. And again, how do you write it? Refractive index of glass with respect to water. So from where the light is coming is written as the numerator. Velocity of light in medium 1 upon velocity of light in medium 2. Now you can see here, I have compared glass and water. So this is called relative refractive index. Why relative? It is showing me the relation of one with other, that by how much fraction the light will bend when it is going from one medium to another. That is relative. So we are finding the refractive index of glass with respect to water. So it is relative. What is the other word other than relative? Is absolute. One is relative, one is absolute. Now what does absolute mean? In absolute, it means that the medium 1 is always taken as vacuum. And why vacuum? Because light travels fastest in vacuum. So whenever you are finding the velocity of light in medium 2 with respect to vacuum, it is called absolute refractive index. Means you compare everything with vacuum. So if light goes from vacuum to air, it is absolute refractive index of air because you compare with vacuum. If light travels from vacuum to glass, we say absolute refractive index of glass. If light travels from vacuum to water, we say absolute refractive index of water. But relative means comparing two medium. So it can be air to glass, water to glass, air to water, okay? That is relative. When you are comparing two mediums, it is called relative. When you compare with vacuum, it is called absolute refractive index. So refractive index is again what? Refraction is the bending of light, and refractive index is a number which tells us by what proportion the light has actually bent. Okay, so this was the first part of refraction. Now, the second part. Yesterday we did something else also. We did refraction in a glass slab, and I hope you do remember. In that, a ray of light falls on a glass slab and it emerges out. Now what did you see here? Light went from air to glass and from glass back into the air. Okay? Now what do you observe? Refraction has taken place. How the refraction has taken place? Observing the same laws. At this point I draw the normal 90 degree. You can see the angle of incidence I is bigger and angle of refraction R is smaller. It is smaller because light has bent towards the normal. Going from rarer to denser, bent towards the normal. At the second surface, I again draw the normal at 90 degree. Okay. At this surface, the angle of incidence I will call R only because this and this are alternate angles equal and this is the angle of emergence. So when light goes from glass to air, it is bending away from the normal. Okay. So in a glass slab we did yesterday, the light entering the glass slab and coming out, they both will be parallel. Yes, we did it yesterday. They both will be parallel. This we call the lateral shift. Today we will see something else. We will take a glass prism. A prism is triangular in shape. Have you seen a prism? It is triangular in shape. Now what is the difference in a prism and a glass slab? You will see only one difference. A glass slab is also made up of glass. A prism is also made up of glass. This has got 4 sides. This has got 3 sides only. Okay, the difference. So in terms of light, the major difference is here the surface 1 and surface 2 was parallel. You can see they are parallel. Here the two surfaces are not parallel. So when light enters the prism, okay, let me draw the first normal. Normal at 90 degrees. So this is the normal. Now light is entering from air to glass. What should happen? It should bend away from the normal. So, it should bend towards the normal. So, this is angle I, it should bend towards the normal. So, this is the bending taken place. Okay? It was going like this and the bending has taken place. Now it reaches the other surface. Here I draw the normal. So, let me draw the normal here. Light is going back from glass to air. At this time it should bend away from the normal, not towards the normal, it should go away from the normal. So light goes like this. So this is what happens in a prism. See, it went from air to glass, bent it towards this normal. Went from glass to air, went away from the normal. Do you notice this? So in the glass what happens, if you look at this emergent ray, the incident ray, the light was going like this. And finally the light is going like this. So if you trace it backwards, it looks like the light comes from here. Okay? So the light was going in this direction, it has totally changed the direction. Here you can see the ray which was going is parallel to the emergent ray. So because these two surfaces are parallel, light bent in, bent out and they are parallel. But here the two surfaces are not parallel. So light was going like this and now it is going like this. And you see there is a total change in the angle. So it was initially going like this, it bent and went like this, so it has changed by an angle. This angle is called delta or the angle of deviation. Deviation means light has changed its path. Here the light changed its path, but again the path is parallel to the incident ray. It is parallel. Here it has totally changed the path by an angle. It was going like this, it has now turned like this. If the prism was not there, the light would have gone like this. Because of the prism, the light is going. So this is changing an angle. The angle is called deviation. Okay? So this is the idea we have to first understand. In a glass slab, the incident ray and the emergent ray are parallel. Here the incident ray and the emergent ray are not parallel. So here there is no angle between them. It is parallel. The angle is 0. It is only a lateral shift. But here it is changing by an angle. This angle is called delta or the angle of deviation. It happens in a prism. Now it is not in your syllabus, but just for your information, there is an equilateral prism 60, 60, 60. There is also an isosceles prism whose one angle is 90 and the other two are 45. So this is an equilateral prism with angle 60, 60, 60. Okay, and this is which one? A right angle prism 90, 45, 45. So the uses of this we'll see later on, but there are different prisms of different shapes for different purposes. Okay, so we have compared what? Refraction in a glass slab and refraction in a prism. Okay, now we'll go to the next part of the lesson, that is dealing in lenses. We have finished spherical mirrors, now we go to spherical lenses. Now what is a lens? So a lens is somewhat of this shape. A lens is, this is a convex lens, biconvex lens. You can see it has got two surfaces which are spherical in nature. But what I wanted to show you is, you can imagine the ends are prisms. Okay, these are glass slab. What do you notice here? If I break it up, the top part is prism, the middle part is glass slab, but their sides are not parallel. The between is a glass slab whose sides are almost parallel. So, if parallel rays of light fall on it, what should happen? You can guess. First it goes towards the normal, then away from the normal. Here also little towards the normal, then away from the normal. This will go straight towards the normal, away from the normal. So the ray of light will meet at a point here. So this is what happens in a lens, and you can take the lens as prism, glass slab, and glass slabs in between whose ends are not parallel. Okay. So since we have reached here, now we'll go to the introduction of the lenses. So what do we have in a lens? I will draw a lens here. First we'll see the shape of the lens. This is called a biconvex lens, or just call it convex because you can see the spherical surfaces. This one is a biconcave lens, or you can just call it a concave lens. This is a convex lens, this is a concave lens. Now we can have one side plane and one side convex. So what I will call this? I will call this plano-convex. A plane and a convex is called a plano-convex. Okay? If I have a plane and a concave, I will call this plano-concave. Are you following the names? Biconvex, biconcave, plano-convex, plano-concave. Then I can have what? Something what you can see, one end is concave and the other end is convex. So this is called a concavo-convex. So lenses are of different types, different shape according to the uses, but we are not going to go into so many shapes. We will stick to the basic shape of the book, that is the biconvex and the biconcave. Just now we are only going to do this two, the biconvex and the biconcave. Okay? So I have written things on the board, drawn on the board, but it is very important you to remember each and everything. So you can rewind the video to see the concept. So you must have followed the lesson so far. We started with refraction, that is the bending of light, and refractive index is the measure of the bending of light. What is relative refractive index? What is absolute refractive index? What happens of refraction in a glass slab? What happens to refraction in a glass prism? What is deviation? The types of prisms and the types of lenses. Okay? We have done this far. Now we move to the convex lens first. Now let us understand the basic concept of a lens. So I am drawing a convex lens first. Okay? Now if you observe, how did I get this convex lens? A convex lens has got two spherical surfaces. Can you see this? There is something in between now. It's not a mirror with one surface. Means in a mirror there are also two surfaces, but one is reflecting surface and one side is parallel. If I do only the mirror like this, then the mirror has got one side which is reflecting and one side which is rough. But here I have got both the surfaces like this. Okay? So there are two surfaces. So there is a piece of glass bound by two spherical surfaces. What happens in a glass slab? In a glass slab you have got a piece of glass bound by four surfaces all parallel to each other. Two parallel rectangular glass slab. This is a piece of glass which is bound by two spherical surfaces. So it is like putting one saucer over the other. Okay, one saucer over the other, but in between there is no air, it is full of glass. So if you see a magnifying lens is of this shape. You observe the magnifying lens, it is thin at the borders and thick in the middle. So it is made up of glass, this is a lens. Now we go to the parts of the lens. So if you see this spherical surface, and if I complete the circle, this must have been a part of a ball. And if you look at this surface, this also must have been the part of another ball. Can you see that? Now, to make it simple, I have kept the radius of both the surfaces equal. Okay, can you see this circle and this circle both have got equal radius? What have they got? They both have got equal radius. So, you have to imagine this lens, this spherical surface belongs to this sphere and this spherical surface belongs to this sphere. And for the sake of simplicity, the radius may be different also. If you try the radius different, what you will get? You will get something like this. If you keep this radius bigger, then it will become like this. Means bulging on one side but slightly thin on the other. But for simplicity's sake, I am keeping it both the same on both sides. Okay? Now this is the center of curvature called C1 for this surface and center of curvature C2 for this surface. We did this in the mirror also. The center of the imaginary sphere from which the sphere lens is cut is called center of curvature, but it will have two this time. Okay? It will have two. So this is the first part you will see that the center of curvature does not lie where on the lens. It lies outside just like the mirror. So center of curvature 1 and center of curvature 2. Okay? Now the definition. This lens has got exactly a center in the middle. We call it the O. O is optical center. So, the geometrical center of the mirror was called the pole and the geometrical center of the lens is called O, optical center. So, this point I should write actually here. This is the point O, optical center. Okay? Now, the imaginary line passing through C1 and C2. Passing through C1 and C2. The imaginary line passing through C1 and C2 is called what? Same name. Principal axis. Same thing. It is principal axis. Okay? So again what we have by definition? The geometrical center of the lens is called O, optical center, and the center of the imaginary spheres from which this lens was cut is called the center of curvature C1 and C2. Now we have got two sides here and both sides are transparent. So by the same definition, if I put parallel rays of light on one side, after refraction they will all meet at a point. What is this point called? The focal length f2. Okay? And we know focal length is almost half of center of curvature. So this time we give them name 2f2. Yes, this is focal length 2 and this is 2f2. So we'll name this as 2f1 and this side the focus will call f1. So because of the two surfaces we've got two focus. So if light falls from this side, it will meet at this point. If light comes from this side, it will meet at this point. So we have got, now what we have changed the name of this time, we have called C1. We are calling it 2f1, means the focal length on this side is f1, double of f1 will give us C1. So C1 is 2f1, f1, f2, 2f2. So again, the optical center of the mirror is called O. The geometrical center of the mirror, of the lens. The geometrical center of the lens is O, also called the optical center. The line passing through 2f1 and 2f2 is called the principal axis. Rays parallel to the principal axis after refraction. Now there is no reflection here. Refraction means it will now meet on the other side. In the mirror it was meeting on the same side. Here it is meeting on the other side. So here is f2. So this is what the focus. Then the distance between optical center and focus is called the focal length. Like I told you, in this scheme I have kept the focal length same on both sides, but it is not necessary. The surfaces can be made in such a way that one side and the other side the focal lengths are different. So what you can see here again, we have got 2f1, f1, O, f2 and 2f2. So these two are the radius of curvature of this side and this side, focal length on both sides. Optical center is the geometrical center of the lens. Principal axis is the imaginary line passing through 2f1 and 2f2. So this is the lens we have, and here the light is actually meeting. So on this side the image will be real because the light is actually meeting and be caught on the screen. So this is slightly different from the mirror. In the mirror the light met on this side, here the light meets on the other side. Is it clear? So this is what we have got, and we can even draw the concave mirror. This will also have what? Two surfaces, so two centers. It will have the optical center, it will have the f1, it will have the 2f1, it will have the f2 and it will have the 2f2. Now, rays of light, you can see the surface. What will happen to these rays of light? They will diverge. So it appears to meet at the focus on the same side. So here the light is converging, actually meeting here. Here the light is actually diverging. Okay. So what was happening in the mirror? In the mirror, when the image formed on the same side, it was real and inverted. In the case of the lens, the image forming on the other side is real and inverted. In the mirror, the image forming on the other side was virtual and erect. In the lens, the image formed on the same side is virtual and erect. So this is the basic idea of a convex lens and a concave lens. Now we have to study, again like the mirror, the images in a lens when the object is placed at different intervals, right? Okay. Now before we do that, there is a small activity which you can do. If you have got a magnifying lens at home, have you got a magnifying lens at home? It is almost this in shape. Okay? And what we had done in the last time during the mirror, the sun rays which are coming from very far away, you can say for a small portion they are parallel. So, if you take your magnifying lens, okay, a magnifying lens, and allow the sunlight to fall on it, and then you allow it to fall on a piece of paper. So what you need to do, take a newspaper and put the magnifying lens in such a way that the light passes through the lens and falls on the newspaper. Now you will get an image of sun on the newspaper. You will get an image of sun on the newspaper. If you take the magnifying lens up and down such that the image becomes very small, means the light is meeting at the focus. So if you keep your paper here, if you keep your paper at this spot, then the paper will start to burn. Why? The heat of the sun, the light of the sun is all focused at one point. So if you arrange your mirror in such a way that the light coming from the sun meets it directly on the paper, a very small dot. Yes? And you have caught the image of the sun rays on the newspaper. So your newspaper is the screen, the sun is your object, and the small yellow dot is the image of the sun. But the image of the sun, if you try to catch in a newspaper, it will start to burn because all the heat is focused at one place. So if you burn the newspaper, if you catch it on the screen, yes, if you catch the sun rays on a piece of paper with a magnifying lens, it will start to burn. But the point at which is burning, you will know the distance between these two is your focal length of the lens. So this is one activity you can try. Now what is the next part we have to do is the rules. To understand the images, we have to understand the rules. So I hope you do remember what the rules were in the mirror. The same kind of rules apply to the lens. I'm not going to rub it. You can see a ray parallel. Look, a ray parallel to the principal axis after refraction passes through a focus. Rule number 1, okay? Remember this. A ray in a convex mirror, sorry, convex lens. This is a convex lens. So in a convex lens, a ray parallel to the principal axis. Parallel to the principal axis after refraction will pass through the focus. In concave lens, a ray of light parallel to the principal axis. A ray of light parallel to the principal axis after refraction appears to pass through the focus. See the words. A ray of light parallel to the principal axis after refraction passes through the focus. A ray of light parallel to the principal axis after refraction appears to pass through the focus. Rule number 1. Rule number 2. A ray of light passing through the focus. A ray of light passing through the focus after refraction becomes parallel to the principal axis. Rule number 2. A ray of light passing through the focus, first focus, after refraction becomes parallel to the principal axis. Here also, a ray of light passing through focus, what happens? It becomes parallel to the principal axis, but not on this side, on the other side. Okay? And the third one, if a ray of light passes to the optical center, it will not change its path at all. A ray of light passing through the optical center will not change the path at all. So these are the rules for the formulation. Will you remember all the three? A ray parallel to the principal axis after refraction passes through the focus. A ray passing through the focus after refraction becomes parallel to the principal axis, and a ray going to the optical center will go without any change in the direction. Based on this rules, we will do the different positions and images in the next lecture. So I am going to end here. Thank you.